Jaya Gaura Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jagannath Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Harinam Sankirtan ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai
Hare Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishram Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saras Urvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshadarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, few points from today. Yes, Shuklamar.
Although Lord is capable of giving bhakti himself, but he specifically empowers his preachers to give the bhakti. Otherwise, he would be termed as partial to some. And because Lord is impartial, he, according to, means like devotees, they independently distribute Krishna's mercy.
Right, thank you.
We have discussed about eligibility of practicing devotional service, where it is mentioned that someone who is having past impressions because having in touch with devotees or the Lord, and in present life, if they are not too attached to sense gratification or not too detached from sense objects, he is eligible to practice devotional service.
Good.
We discussed the three types of devotees, Kanishta, Dhyam and Uttama, and the distinction is based on knowledge and faith. So neophytes' knowledge and faith is very weak, and if somebody gives him some strong opinions, he may change his. But Madhyam's faith is strong, but he cannot give logical, convincing arguments. But Uttamadhikari is perfectly fixed up in devotional service, and that fixation is due to his Shastriya Shraddha, not Lokik Shraddha.
Good.
When one comes in the association of devotees, he will get the Adnyata Sukruti. That in all sphere of devotional service, the freedom is the main priority.
Okay, good. Few more points.
We discussed about how Rupa Goswami explains Bhukti and Mukti, both of them to be Pisachi or witch.
Why?
Yeah, because Bhukti actually leads to karma tendency, like to enjoy in this material world, and Mukti leads to Jnana tendency, that I want peace. I don't want to, as you gave example, we don't want to engage in service because we want peace. So both of these are contrary to the pure devotional service, and hence they both are considered as witch or pisachi.
Okay, good.
Pure devotional service is so powerful that Lord's devotees do not even want them. Like we had example of Prathu Maharaj, who is saying that if having liberation stops me from hearing glorious pastimes of yours, your name, form, qualities, then I do not want such liberation. So that is the aspiration for pure
So what is
devotees.
aspiring for?
Pure devotional service means being here and hearing from his devotees, pure devotees.
More
pastimes
specifically,
of-
what is Prithu Maharaj asking for? Millions of years. Millions of years. He doesn't ask for tongues, only years. Something else?
We saw that there is no limitation that this category only can practice devotional service or that category. It is open to all, just like anyone can take bath, like in Kumbh Mela and all those things. So anyone can take bath. Similarly, anyone can practice devotional service. There are not limitation to some caste.
Yes, apratihata, no obstruction. Thank you.
Whatever Krishna does in devotee's life, it is ultimately for devotee's protection.
Okay, that was Kleshagni.
There are three types of devotee, Kanishta, Madhya, Madhika. They are not like a separate boxes. They are like a middle.
Okay, overlap.
Overlap.
There could be overlap between three.
We saw one verse in NOD by Rupa Goswami where the Krishna is not preaching. Krishna is giving opportunity to his devotees to preach, where they can discriminate and focus particular. So the one whom they reach out is Ati Bhagyena, fortunate one. Then there is Shraddhaya, he starts serving with a faith, he likes association of devotees. Then Nati Sakto and Vairagya, these are the two types. One may be too attached and one may be too detached.
All right, so if one is too attached or too detached, they're disqualified.
Yeah,
The proper
karma kanda,
qualification
jnana
is
kanda.
not too attached. Okay.
There is a freedom for both the preacher and who is a recipient. So Lord is not giving the mercy to any jiva directly because he can be blamed as a partial. So the preacher is independent freedom he is using for the Lord's mercy to you. The same the recipient also he wants he can take, otherwise he cannot take. Like
Right, thank you.
We have seen four types of people comes to Lord: Artha, Artyati, Jnani, Jinyasu. Among that, Jnani is the best because he know all things about Lord. He's not Lord is not impersonal. His real identity he know.
Okay, good.
When one gives up the desire for bhakti and mukti, then one can taste the sweetness of bhakti.
Then one can test. Okay, fine. One or two more important points.
We have discussed about practice of devotional service, that anyone can practice, and then we have discussed elaborately on that ki Vaishnava when practices he becomes better than a Brahmana. And then we discussed about initiation. When people take initiation, although these two aspects of bhakti and mukti, they leave aside this and start practicing devotional service, but they should not become slacken in terms of again getting indulged in these activities, because Rupa Goswami says they should be very carefully vigilant of these things.
Right, so after initiation, one should be very alert to follow all the rules and regulations.
We discussed the best atonement is the devotional service itself. So there is no need for any separate
Atonement, yes. No separate prayashchita, devotional services.
And
Okay, fine. And then we discussed how bhakti is superior to karma, jnana, yoga, and how when one takes to bhakti, then one becomes free from all the debts. Devarshi bhutaptaninam pitrinam. Really? In praise of Lord, and I shall never ask, I simply always pray unto Lordship that may give me millions of tongues and millions of years. Okay. Of course, we do accept this, but still, just to confirm, go to the Bhagavatam verse. Somebody can quickly open Bhagavatam verse. 4th canto, 20th chapter, verse 24. 4:20-24. Just to confirm. 4:20-24. मिल गया?
यस न काम थे नाथ
आप पढ़ो पढ़ो.
My dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of your nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1 millionth year. For thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotee.
Right. Okay, fine. Anyway, with so many years, then tongues also should be there. Okay, fine. So you read the 4th chapter? It's all about liberation. So pure devotee doesn't even desire the 4 types of liberation. Sarupya, Samipya, Sarishti, Salokya. If there is no service. Yes. Okay, fine. We are going to the 6th chapter now. Hare Krishna. Chapter 6, How to Discharge Devotional Service. Please read the first paragraph. Radha Valapuru, you have the mic in front of you.
Shri Rupa Goswami states that his elder brother Sanatan Goswami has compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas for the guidance of the Vaishnavas, and therein has mentioned many rules and regulations to be followed by Vaishnavas. Some of them are very important and prominent, and Srila Rupa Goswami will now mention these very important items for our benefit. The purport of this statement is that Srila Rupa Goswami proposes to mention only basic principles, not details. For example, a basic principle is that one has to accept a spiritual master. Exactly how one follows the instructions of a spiritual master is considered a detail. For example, if one is following the instruction of a spiritual master and that instruction is different from the instructions of another spiritual master, this is called detailed information. But the basic principle of acceptance of a spiritual master is good everywhere, although the details may be different. Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into details here, but wants to place before us only the principles.
Okay. So one important discussion. Okay, good. Okay, so Rupa Goswami defines an anga of bhakti. Atra anga lakshanam ashrita vantaraneka bhedam kevalam evava ekam karmatra vidvabhir ekam bhakti angam uchyate. In bhakti, the characteristics of anga are as follows. The learned define an anga of bhakti as a complex of devotional actions with internal divisions, or only one action of bhakti which does not have clearly defined differences within it. So this is the definition of an anga of bhakti. So it's either one activity or a complex of different activities. So one activity is like taking shelter of the bona fide spiritual master. That's one activity. A complex of different activities, example is archanam. So there are so many things in archanam, right? So many activities. So that's an example of complex of devotional actions and only one action. Okay, so this is the definition of anga of bhakti. Next. Okay, so total there are 64 angas of bhakti. 20 items are of primary importance. Okay, first 10 are activities to accept, pravritti, next 10 are activities to avoid, nivritti. And there are 44 additional items of service. Okay, so please remember this point, these 20 are called as primary angas of bhakti. They are most important. They are called as the primary angas of bhakti. Then remaining are secondary angas. Of course, we have the last 5 which are also included within the primary angas of bhakti. The last 5, Panchanga bhakti, most potent. They are also included within the primary angas of bhakti. So what is the significance of this primary and secondary we'll discuss. But please remember this basic concept. Okay, the first 20 are primary angas. The remaining are secondary angas, except the last 5. All right? So, okay. So we will read these first 20. Since they're very important, we'll read the first 20. Okay, please read. And out of them, the first 3 are most important. Okay, out of these first 20, the first 3 are considered to be most important.
He mentions the basic principles as follows. First, accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Second, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. Third, obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. Fourth, following the footsteps of great acharyas, teachers under the direction of the spiritual master. Fifth, inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. Sixth, being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. This means that when we are engaged in devotional service of Krishna, we must be prepared to give up something which we may not like to give up, and also we have to accept something which we may not like to accept. Seventh, residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage like Dwarka or Vrindavan. Eighth, accepting only what is necessary or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. Ninth, observing the fasting on the day of Ekadashi. And 10th, worshipping sacred trees like banyan tree.
These 10 items are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service in regulative principles. In the beginning, if a neophyte devotee observes the above mentioned 10 principles, surely he will quickly make good advancement in Krishna consciousness.
Okay, Prabhupada is giving assurance. Surely he will quickly make good advancement. Okay, so very important. Next.
The next set of instructions is listed as follows.
So these are don'ts.
One should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. One should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. Third, one should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. Fourth, one should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning his livelihood by lecturing or on or professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Fifth, one should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. Sixth, one should not be under the spell of lamentation in loss or jubilation in gain. Seventh, one should not disrespect the demigods. Eighth, one should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. Ninth, one should carefully avoid the various offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord or in worshipping the deity in the temple. Tenth, one should be very intolerant toward the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna or his devotees. Without following the above mentioned 10 principles, one cannot properly elevate himself to the platform of sadhana bhakti or devotional service in practice. Altogether, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions 20 items, and all of them are very important. Out of 20, the first 3, namely accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, taking initiation from him, and serving him with respect and reverence, are the most important.
Yes. Okay, fine. So these are first 20, which are very, very important. Okay, now go ahead here. Okay, so we know this verse, Sarvapadi Vinamuktat. So he classifies these various angas of bhakti according to the various senses, how various senses are involved. Anyway, this is more theoretical. But basically, the 44 angas, he talks about how the various senses are involved. Okay, fine, next. Okay, so now we'll come to one very important discussion of principle and detail, which Srila Prabhupada has spoken of in the first paragraph. So what is principle? No, that is an example. What is the definition of a principle Prabhupada is giving here? No. Okay. So, a principle is non-adjustable or unchangeable. That is called a principle. A rule or regulation that is non-adjustable or unchangeable is called a principle, whereas a detail is adjustable or changeable. That is the definition of a principle and a detail. Clear? What is principle? Yes, principle, non-adjustable, unchangeable. Detail is adjustable or changeable. Now, these 64 angas of bhakti are all what? Principles or details?
Some are principles, some are details.
What?
Some are principles, some are details.
Sorry, sir. So Prabhupada is writing, see at the end of the first paragraph, Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into details here, but wants to place before us only the principles. So all the 64 angas of bhakti are all principles. Please remember this point. So this is a very important point. This point, some points one can never forget. One should always remember. 10 years afterwards also, if somebody asks, one should be able to remember. But usually in Bhakti Vaibhav classes, we ask, they forget. So all the 64 angas of bhakti are what? Principles. Okay. So principles are non-adjustable, unchangeable. So now we find Srila Prabhupada in his preaching, especially in the West, in the beginning days, adjusted some details without changing principles. So what are some of these adjustments that Srila Prabhupada brought about in his preaching in the West? Somebody can write? Okay, let's hear some points. Ujjwal Temple. What temple? Huh? What happened to the temple construction?
So he made the building only as a temple without any dome, bells, all that.
Good.
Padmapada
Yes.
Singhania.
So the first temple was 26 Second Avenue. That was storefront. Storefront, you know storefront, no? वो रोड के बाजू में दुकान होता है ना वैसे. हाँ. So that was so. Okay, so you can say what? Okay, so whatever you can. And then when the second temple started, where? San Francisco, what they did? They also took storefront. So they thought temple means storefront. And then afterwards, later on, Srila Prabhupada took so many apartments, churches, ghost haunted places, so many places Srila Prabhupada took and converted them into temples. And Indians were complaining, hey, what type of temple this Swamiji is making? Where is the Vastu Shastra? Where is dome? Where is this? Where is that? Prabhupada said, you go on talking, you don't do anything. Okay, what else? Yes, Prabhu.
Sannyasi conducted a marriage ceremony.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada conducted marriage ceremonies. Why? There was no one else to do it at that time. But his disciples wanted to get married, so who else is going to do it? So therefore Srila Prabhupada did it, though sannyasi is not supposed to.
Giving Brahman Diksha to Matajis.
Okay, giving Brahman Diksha to ladies.
Sannyasi is traveling across the...
Bolo bhai.
Brahmacharini ashram.
Yes, Brahmacharini ashram. Unfortunately, that is already shown over there. Okay, so anyway.
Chanting rounds.
Huh?
Decrease. Rounds of chanting.
Rounds of chanting, what happened to
Decrease.
them? Huh? 64 to 0.
16. 16.
Okay. Okay, number of rounds of chanting.
Sannyasis
उनको
traveling,
लिखने दो ना.
crossing oceans.
Okay, number of rounds of chanting. Okay, sannyasi crossing the ocean. Without crossing ocean, how he'll preach in the West? What else?
He started Rath Yatra whole year. Like
Throughout the world.
Throughout the world.
Yes, Rath Yatra, so many places, so many cities throughout the world. Srila Prabhupada started Rath Yatras.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Who's that? Unembodied.
Online. Bro. Prabhuji allowed Matajis to worship deities in the temple.
Okay, right. Okay.
And also
Women allowed to worship deities.
And also gave name to deities like Radha Landaneshwar or Radha Parisheshwar, which you are
Okay,
not.
very unique names of deities. Landanishwar, Parisishwar, and now they started Bangalore Ishwar.
Roji, allowing brahmacharis to stay in cities along with families and all, which was not there. Previously, they used to stay in ashram. So many restrictions are there for a brahmachari ashram. But we preach, we go to the house programs, and so many things are there.
Of course, brahmacharis are always allowed to go to the grihasthas to preach. That was always there. Brahmachari sannyasis go to grihasthas.
Sannyasis
Staying in the city.
Wait, he wants to support
Staying
his...
in the city, Broji, and doing everything where free mixing is there and so much. No.
Free mixing was not allowed.
Not of their free mixing, but they are seeing free mixing in city. If they are staying in the ashram, like well and other places, it was considered that would be safe for brahmachari. But Prabhupada revolutionized. He, for purposefully for preaching, expanding the mission, he sent his brahmacharis and sannyasis to such places that go and preach.
Okay, preaching everywhere.
Sannyasi is handling money.
Sannyasi is handling money?
In terms of, yeah, yes.
But previously sannyasi never touched money?
Not never touched money, actively involved in.
No. Even Srila Bhakti Thakur, he also was constructing temples, mathas.
Yes.
So, Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, they also constructed huge temples. So, then some money has to be. Of course, may not be so much.
They never, at least Rupa Goswami, they were not directly involved
They
in
were not
accounting of
directly
money.
involved, correct. That's
That
correct.
started from Bhakti Thakur, continued by Prabhupada. That's why it's not.
Okay, so what we should write?
Whatever you feel.
No, it's your point, Baba, you tell.
You validated no.
You tell what to write.
Sannyasi is handling money.
Okay, sannyasi is handling money.
Directly.
Directly. Okay. Why only sannyasis? Brahmacharis don't travel. Okay, preachers traveling in yes. Harmonium was always used. No, harmonium is old thing. What was the other thing? Pubs, bars? Hey, no, Baba. Devotees never did kirtans in pubs and bars. Oh, that is only one. That was only one instance Prabhupada went to in San Francisco, the ballroom dance. No place for brahmacharis and sannyasis. But he went, he didn't know what to expect. He didn't know. But then after the show was over, he said, oh, this is no place.
Prabhupada, one devotee said, my 16 round is remain. Prabhupada said, that devotee supposed to be cooking, but Prabhupada said, I will do that your remaining round, you do first cooking.
What?
16 round chanting. Chanting 16 round once devotees remain some round. That time that devotee is supposed to be cooking that time. But Prabhupada that time said nobody was cooking there, cook devotee. Prabhupada said, I will do your remaining round. You do first cooking.
Acha?
Yes. One sannyasi, he said in class.
कहाँ भाई थोड़ा reference दे दो कहाँ है?
Guruji, I forget his name, but
Acha, somebody told, huh?
yes, the sannyasi in lecture, that's it.
Huh? Anyway, we cannot generalize these things. Okay, even if it took.
Prabhuji, moving temple, that Radha Damodar bus part.
Okay, rather than okay, fine. Moving to.
Guruji, rules for fasting, I heard something, I'm not clear, I'm clarifying with you. Like for certain tithis, we follow differently, but Gaudiya Matha and others, like they have some rules and they object also sometimes.
The basic thing is, Srila Prabhupada's main focus was on preaching. Yes, so adjusting all rules and regulations for preaching. I mean, not so again, it's basically adjusting the details, not the principles. Adjusting details for the sake of preaching.
Prabhupada started this Mayapur festival, inviting
Mayapur
people,
Vrindavan festival.
inviting people from all over the world to come unite and.
Okay, international festivals. Yes, of course. Bhakti Thakur started many things actually.
Guruji, Prasad.
What?
Prasad.
Prasad was always there, no?
Not so opulent. Sweets.
International cuisine.
Yes.
So much variety was never there. From pasta, pizza and whatnot.
One pastime is there of Kirtanand Swami Maharaj that he was...
Which Maharaj?
Kirtanand Swami Maharaj. He was saying that he had brahmacharis and the devotees eating too many bullets. That's not good, and brahmachari is definitely not good. So Prabhupada then called everyone, and instead of them, he told him that, okay, so today onwards, Kirtanan will not take, but others are allowed to take as many as they want.
Right. One last point, Ojan Nirmal.
Gaudiya Vaishnava teaching before it was limited to very less people. Then Bhakti Shastri Thakur has available for all, but Prabhupada has actually done all over the world.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada preached all over the world. Okay, fine. So, okay, now read this. You have the mic, you read.
My god brothers criticize me that I have allowed women to live in our temples. This is not done in India. Only brahmacharis can live. But I have become successful because I have made this adjustment. Although they criticize me, their Gaudiya mats are empty. The only time they have people coming is during Gaur Purnima to Mayapur for parikrama. And who is coming for parikrama? Widows? Women in white? Because I have made this adjustment, I was successful. Srila Prabhupada conversation with
Right.
Shrutakirti.
Yes, so, yes, Srila Prabhupada made some adjustments by which preaching was enhanced. So now, Srila Prabhupada did make some adjustments in the details. To give one example, so one of the principles that Rupa Goswami has given is chanting the holy names. The number of rounds is a detail, correct? The number of rounds is a detail. So now Srila Prabhupada has given us 16 rounds. So now this minimum 16 rounds of chanting Hare Krishna, as devotees of ISKCON, is it a principle or a detail? Can somebody say after 50 years, can somebody say now Kali Yuga has progressed a lot? We'll make it to 8 rounds. Can somebody do that? No. For the next 10,000 years, the principle is to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna, minimum. That remains principle. Similarly, one of the principles Rupa Goswami gives is to sing songs, bhajans. So this is one of the principles. So Srila Prabhupada has given specific songs to be sung during specific artis. Like for Mangalarti, except in Vrindavan. Of course, Vrindavan also is the same thing actually. But in any case, so for Mangalarti, the song is the Gurvashtakam by Vishnu Chakta. No one can sing anything else. So similarly for Darshanarti, sung by Yamuna Mataji and company. So you may have heard the pastime when Srila Prabhupada gave that instruction, some of the sannyasis and brahmacharis were having problems. They were saying, oh, why early in the morning hearing Mataji singing? So Srila Prabhupada said, no, doesn't matter. It is not one lady singing, it is symphony. Symphony means so many people are singing, no? Though her voice is prominent, but so many people are there. So Srila Prabhupada said, no. And of course, in fact, that has attracted many people actually. So, and for Guru Puja? Yes. For evening Sandhya Arati? Can somebody say after a few years, now we got a little bored, we should change both? Can somebody do that? No. So these, though apparently details, as far as our movement is concerned, all these have now become principles. So there are many instructions which Srila Prabhupada has given, which actually for our movement are as good as principles. And to the degree we stick to these rules and regulations that the Acharya has given to please him, our spiritual progress is dependent on that. So therefore, we should try to stick to the principles given by our Acharya, even though apparently they are details. Like Srila Prabhupada has also given instructions for what tune to sing in the morning program. I mean, in the Mangalarti, there's a morning melody, only that needs to be sung. In fact, the standard that Srila Prabhupada has started is, it is only that one morning melody that has to be sung throughout. That is the standard. His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj has recently brought out a book on Kirtan standards. You have seen it? So he's given references for all of that. Now they're slowly trying to implement. So there are many instructions Srila Prabhupada has given on many things. And so we should try to follow all of them. That is for our benefit. So these are as good as principles. Now still, somebody may argue on these things. They may say, no, they're details, so we can change them, we can't be too rigid. So sometimes there are controversies, right? Sometimes there are controversies, whether this can be changed or not changed. So sometimes there are controversies. So when there are controversies on what can be changed or what cannot be changed, then how do we decide? What's that? Okay, fine, we can always consult the higher authorities, we can consult GBC, that is true. Sometimes the GBCs themselves are confused. So what is the criterion in general?
Sarva Vidhi Nisheda Shore Tayor Kinkara means adjusting which is not disturbing the original principle of devotional service.
Okay, that's a very broad principle.
Like one example, last to last year, Puri Yatra, we were in Mutt, Gaudi Mutt nearby this Gundicha Mandir. So the Radha Gopinath Prabhu was he was going to give lecture. So there he started with that. He was glorifying the Maharaj, I don't remember his name.
What? Glorifying what?
The Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Puri Maharaj. So there he told that generally there is a principle that we do not sit in front of deities and eat when altar is open. But when devotees had come many years back in Maharaj Yatra, so it was asked to him, so he told, why not? Because so many devotees were there was no arrangement for sitting. He told, why not? Deities would be very pleased. Devotees coming from far places are getting prasadam and they'll be happy to see devotees eating nicely. So that's what I can think.
Okay, that's a slight adjustment. Okay, fine. Time, place, circumstances. Okay, anyway, so show this. Okay, so this is a pastime which Shrutakirti Prabhu tells. Okay, read. Who's in line? Who's in line?
Shrutakirti, as he moved to massage Prabhupada's side, asked, Prabhupada, how can we tell the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle? Prabhupada's eyes closed and Shrutakirti continued to massage. After a few moments, Prabhupada opened his eyes and said, that takes a little intelligence.
That's all. That takes a little intelligence. So, Bhurujan Prabhu, who's writing this pastime in his book, what's his book?
My Glorious Master.
Yes, My Glorious Master. Then he gives a purport to that small sentence that takes a little intelligence.
Shrutakirti's question was penetrating, clearly delineating between the adjustable and the non-adjustable, between a detail and a principle, is not easy. It requires intelligence. To foolishly mistake a non-adjustable principle for an adjustable detail will cause havoc in spiritual life. And to accept each detail as if it can never be adjusted is fanaticism. Fanaticism will cause havoc of a different nature. If we have developed our spiritual intelligence, we can make distinctions between principles and details. But we should confirm our opinions with trusted friends or superiors. If we haven't developed our spiritual intelligence, we should take guidance from those who have. We should not act independently.
So, very important points. To foolishly mistake a non-adjustable principle for an adjustable detail will cause havoc in spiritual life. For example, vows one takes at the time of initiation, chanting minimum of 16 rounds or the 4 regulative principles. So if one doesn't follow them, there'll be havoc. So at one point of time, there was one sannyasi who began to say that following all the 4 regulative principles, especially the one on illicit sex, is not practical. So, anyway, that sannyasi had great havoc in his own spiritual life. So like this, or the Ritviks not accepting the spiritual master in parampara, havoc. So all these are principles, one cannot change them. So therefore one has to be very careful what one can change and what one cannot change. So it will be foolishness if one changes a non-adjustable principle for an adjustable detail. So similarly, philosophical deviations, they cause a lot of havoc. Therefore, it's very important that one maintain everything as it is, without any change. And on the other hand, and to accept each detail as if it can never be adjusted is fanaticism. There are some details which can be adjusted, as we saw. Srila Prabhupada made some adjustments, and therefore Srila Prabhupada was successful. And then after Srila Prabhupada, according to time, place, circumstances, devotees have made some adjustments in some preaching styles, like what's that?
Sannyasi is wearing pant shirt?
Okay, that of course Srila Prabhupada also allowed. That was also one of the points actually. Yes, Srila Prabhupada did allow devotees to wear Western clothes to preach. But of course, Srila Prabhupada was, yes, he gave that permission to some, he didn't give to others. But anyways, but Prabhupada allowed that.
So we've seen like due to neighbor issues in Chowpatty, the Mangalarti is at 5. So that was
Okay, yes, okay, changing Mangalarti timings.
Online preaching.
What's that?
Online.
Okay, online preaching, yes, now thanks to COVID. What? He said online.
One time DYS.
Okay, DYS and all these things came up. So of course, I mean, online preaching, definitely there has been some benefit of that, right? Many people have taken to Krishna consciousness because of online preaching. Of course, it has its own disadvantages. That's the other side of it, but there are some advantages thanks to COVID. Question? Just one. So any other adjustments devotees have made after Srila Prabhupada in preaching?
We are attending online class.
हाँ ठीक है online हो गया. You're attending online, so you're glorifying online. Huh?
In youth center, first
What's that?
chanting.
Female Diksha Guru School.
What's that? Hey, keep quiet. We're talking about preaching, Baba.
Modern gadgets and all for preaching.
Okay, modern gadgets. Okay, that's all for the same purpose of Shastra. But also in Western countries, some cooking classes and yoga classes. So yes, so some of these things, adjustments have been made.
And, this change of like Guru Puja, previously we had different way, which we hear and which we read and study in our
What's
IDC. The way Guru Puja used to be done, devotees after seeing some negative impact, they've changed.
What they've changed?
Like Guru Puja used to happen for gurus, personal guru every day, those who were
Oh,
staying
that's, okay. That zonal acharya system, that was for a short time. Okay, fine. So some adjustments have been made after that also, due to which preaching has been successful. So that's how. So one cannot be too fanatic also. So if some preaching strategies are working, then some adjustments can be made. But the important point is what? But even if some changes are made, confirm our opinions with trusted friends or superiors. So even if we think that something is a detail which can be adjusted, it's always better to confirm, because the mind always has a tendency to cheat. The mind will say, oh, this can be adjusted, it's all right, this can be adjusted, it's all right. Mind will say everything can be adjusted for one's own convenience. So therefore, it's always best to confirm. And there is one Shastric reference for this. You can open, I'm not very sure, but you can open. First canto, 19th chapter, I suppose this is 12, text 12, if I'm not mistaken. Was that?
Standing before them with folded hands. Hold them.
Yeah, purport dekho, purport. Yes. Any decision, however important, should be confirmed by some authority. That makes the matter perfect. Okay, and the context is, although the king had already decided to fast until death on the bank of the Ganges, he humbly expressed his decision to elicit the opinions of the great authorities present there. Right? Even though Parishit Maharaj was so exalted, he already made the decision, but because so many great sages had assembled over there, he confirmed his decision with them. He had already made the decision, but he confirmed his decision. And this is a golden statement. Any decision, however important, that means it may appear to us to be less important or more important. So usually one thinks, oh, this is not so important, why to confirm? No, what Prabhupada is saying? however important, any decision, however important, should be confirmed by some authority. That makes the matter perfect. That makes the matter perfect. And it saves one from so much trouble. And one can be peaceful if one does that. Right? And this means that the monarchs who ruled the earth in those days were not irresponsible dictators. They scrupulously followed the authoritative decisions of the saints and sages in terms of Vedic injunction. Okay? So that's why, go back. So that's why Burjan Prabhu is writing, always confirm opinions with trusted friends or superiors. You want to make some changes? Confirm. Right? And of course, in one of our previous classes, we already gave that example of the altar here, the movable altar. You had some question?
Yes. Prabhuji, now whatever we have discussed regarding principle and details, that second point, so like, we have given that opinions of online preaching or device and all this stuff. These are some things which were not there during Prabhupada times. Technology has developed, we have started using it. Are there any examples in which some principles were set during Prabhupada times and then was changed later on? These things using device or no laptop or online, these things have come up later. Are there any instances in ISKCON or history wherein some things have changed? Maybe some timings, like Chaupati example, what Suklamanand was given, that's detailed for specific temple of Chaupati because of some problems in the neighborhood. I'm asking, are there any details wherein this resolution is passed wherein not something new, introducing new something which is discussed into, that's not I'm talking about. I'm asking something which is changed. Are there any instances wherein, considering it as detail?
Something which was done during Prabhupada's time and was changed.
And I'm talking about something which is done prominently during Prabhupada times and then changed. Are there any instances of that kind?
At least I can't remember anything because we are not supposed to change anything that Prabhupada started.
That's what.
So such a thing cannot happen. So some individual may do it whimsically. And those things have happened. Some individual has whimsically done something funny and then obviously he could not remain. That's another thing. But officially nothing can be changed like that because we are supposed to simply follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So officially nothing can be changed.
Then in that case, Poji, to accept each detail as it can never be adjusted is fanatism. What does it mean, Poji? Because
so that refers to all these new things like online preaching and whatever adjustments have been made to facilitate preaching. That is what is being mentioned. So adjustments in details, like Srila Prabhupada made some adjustments. After that, devotees did make some adjustments. So we're talking about these adjustments.
Poji, when we mentioned these things, Prabhupada adjusted things. Like we have wrote these 14 items. See, these items were existing before, like Prabhupada changing rounds to 16, or women being given Brahman Diksha. They were denied earlier, and Prabhupada introduced them. Something was done, and then we have done completely new. But when we were discussing about these details which are changed, we were discussing about something which were not existent, and which are brought into existence. So I'm asking these kind of examples after Prabhupada, if any are there.
No, that's what. After Prabhupada, it cannot be done. So there cannot be examples. Officially, there cannot be such examples.
It was discussed that about the evening Bhagavad Gita classes and devotees going for a book distribution in the daytime, after Prasadam. All this has got changed. Nobody is going for this book distribution after Prasadam. They are doing their own official duties, whatever is the departmental duties.
These things are temple based. These things are individual temple based. These are not some rules or regulations. So that is depending on the convenience of devotees in that particular temple. These things have been adjusted.
And about Bhagavad Gita class, now it is also
Yeah,
started.
Bhagavad Gita class also is an adjustment for the devotees in some particular temples. Some temples still have Bhagavad Gita classes on regular basis every day. So then in some temples, so like here, the Bhagavad Gita was replaced by the Brahmachari class. So that is the system. So these are only small adjustments. The principle always remains. ठीक है?
We have seen that if some devotees have brought about some adjustment to the details, they were criticized. Like, to give an example, when Srila Radhanath Maharaj started this Bhaktivedanta Hospital community, so he was also criticized, and means some unique way of preaching, because and even some His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj also started some unique way of preaching, and later. Because now they have adjusted the details, and they were even criticized by many senior men in the society, and later they came out to be very successful in their preaching. So now they have changed the details for based on time, place, circumstance. So even tomorrow somebody else may also change the details, and
So that's what, no, so change in details is not a problem. So change in details is not a problem.
But if
the but is here. So therefore, even to change details, if one confirms with others, then it's safe.
there are some people who will always support our decision, and some people they will always oppose the decision.
Right, so therefore the GBC votes on a majority vote. The GBC takes decisions on majority vote. So we can never expect everyone to agree on everything. So decisions are always taken on majority vote.
GBC's decisions, what we generally happen, they are happen on a society level. But if we consider on a specific area level, temple level, then there are many things which are changed, and sometimes we, whosoever is changing, he gets lot of criticism from the top authorities, because a standard comes, this is not what Prabhupada has given, this is not.
So one has to take into consideration all these factors. What can we say? Right. So then whoever is making those changes definitely has to take these points into consideration, whether they are bona fide, not bona fide, should we consult higher authorities, not consult. So this is what he's writing. So this is what, this is what? We read that Prabhupada's purport. What Prabhupada has written?
Small or big, however.
Yes,
should be
any decision, however important, must always be confirmed with some authority that makes the matter perfect. This is what we need to follow. We don't have to bother about what someone did and someone did not. This is what we have to follow. Okay? This is what we have to follow. Okay? What happened in the past is another thing. But as far as we are concerned, this is what we should follow. This is what we should learn, and this is what we should teach others to follow. Right? So therefore, see, the first thing is, okay, a little more analysis. So Prabhupada said that requires a little intelligence. Now what he's writing, what type of intelligence is that? Spiritual intelligence. So if we have developed our spiritual intelligence, we can make distinctions. So if we think that we have sufficiently developed our spiritual intelligence, okay, then fine, then no need to consult anyone, we can make those changes. But a Vaishnava is always humble, isn't it? A Vaishnava will never think, oh, I have developed my spiritual intelligence. He'll never think like that. So therefore, the safe path is always confirm. That is always safe. Confirm the decisions. So we should not think, oh, I've become very smart, I've developed my spiritual intelligence, I can make changes. No. That is always risky. It's always risky. There have been mistakes in the past because of this. Not small mistakes, big mistakes. So therefore, this is the safe path. Confirm with some authority. That's the safe path. Okay. So there is no need to think that, oh, I'm very smart, I know how to do things. The Vaishnava is always humble. Again, we know the well-known example which His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj has written in his book. the Juhu story where His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Shyam Sundar Prabhu, they thought that, oh, Srila Prabhupada is old, he doesn't know what he's doing. This Jew business is so troublesome. And without consulting Srila Prabhupada, they cancelled the deal. We know that, right? They had to pay the price for it. Lot of trouble they had to go through. So, see, these are eternal principles. Srila Prabhupada is writing in purports, these are eternal principles. For the next 10,000 years, we discussed the pastime yesterday, if you remember. Right? Srila Prabhupada told Rameshwar Prabhu and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and before putting every word in these purports, Srila Prabhupada would think so many times. So therefore, what Srila Prabhupada especially has written in his purports are very precise. And every word and every statement of the purport has to be taken very seriously. Therefore, we are giving so much of emphasis on especially reading Srila Prabhupada's purports, because Srila Prabhupada has given these purports for us, especially ISKCON devotees, for the next 10,000 years. Right. So, this is for us to follow. Okay? Okay, fine. Now we'll proceed. So now the rest of the chapter is basically the list of the remaining angas of bhakti, the remaining 44. And so that's a list which will be discussed one by one in the further chapters. So therefore, we are not going just through the list. So you can go through it on your own. If you have any doubts, you can ask.
As you said that these 20 are principles and it cannot be adjusted. That's what we discussed.
Not only these 20, all the 64.
All the 64. So many times when we see we don't follow some principles. So then how we should understand this?
And among them, the first 20 are most important.
Like in the 20 only, like if we go to the 10th one, worshipping the sacred tree like banyan tree. We never follow and neither
Correct.
we propagate.
Correct. So each of them will be discussed in detail in the further chapters. So each of them will discuss. Okay? So if your question will definitely be answered when we come to that. And I suppose it will come today only. Okay? So each one of them will be discussed in the further chapters. In fact, all the further chapters are basically explanation of the 64 angas of bhakti only, where Rupa Goswami has given proper shastric quotes to prove the authenticity of each of these angas of bhakti. All right? Okay, fine. So we are going to chapter 7, evidence regarding devotional principles. Next. Okay, read this.
Hare Krishna.
Something is down?
Angas of sadhana bhakti. Still Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that if one maintains within his heart the desire to enjoy the result of good work or being embraced by the material world, the desire to get out of the material entanglement, one will never be able to attain the transcendental mellows of devotional service. In other words, one must not desire material profit when rendering devotional service. Even if one follows all the 64 regulatory principles, he cannot attain pure devotional service with a contaminated heart.
Yes. So one may follow all the 64 angas of bhakti very nicely, but if one has a desire for some material profits, then he violates the basic siddhanta of pure devotional service, that is, anya vilashita shunyam. So then he can never achieve perfection. So he may say, oh, I'm doing all the 64 angas very nicely. So that is fine. So it is not simply the external performance of the 64 angas, but what is the motive while performing? That is also very important. So yes, some benefit one will definitely get. But then if one wants to achieve the ultimate result, and that is Krishna Prem, then one has to perform the 64 angas without desire for material profit. I'm just saying, there's no reference, no? No? Okay, go ahead. See? Okay, go ahead. Rarely I forget to put the reference. Okay, now we are going to, okay, so this we have already discussed. These 20 angas serve as the door for entering bhakti. The first 3 angas, taking shelter of the feet of the Guru, receiving teachings of the initiation and serving the Guru with respect, are said to be the principal ones. Okay, next. Okay, so now this is the next chapter, evidence regarding devotional principles, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, that is, Adav Guru Padashraya. Okay, please read from Prabhupada's book.
Accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 21, Prabhupada tells Maharaj Nemi, "My dear king, please know for certain that in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such a great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Everyone should try to find such a bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life, which is to transfer himself to the plane of spiritual bliss. But the purport is that one should not accept as a spiritual master someone who is fool number 1, who has no direction according to the spiritual injunctions, whose character is doubtful, who doesn't follow the principles of devotional service, or who has not conquered the influence of the 6 sense gratifying agents. The 6 agents of sense gratification are the tongue, the genitals, the belly, anger, and mind, and words. Anyone who has practiced controlling these 6 permitted to make disciples all over the world. To accept such a spiritual master is the crucial point for advancement in spiritual life. One who is fortunate enough to come under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master is sure to traverse the path of spiritual salvation without any doubt.
Yes. So in this connection, Rupa Goswami is quoting this verse from the 11th canto, famous verse, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Pare Cha Nishnatam Brahmanyupashmashrayam. Of course, we have already read the translation from Prabhupada's book here, but anyways, we can read once again. Here, this one. So why this verse is starting with therefore? Because in the previous verses he has described the nature of material happiness. So therefore,
Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusion of scripture by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual master.
yes, and then Prabhupada is also quoting which verse for qualification spiritual master? Yes, Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodha Vegam, that's what is. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, only a person who has understood the futility of material sense gratification can approach a bona fide spiritual master. Okay, so Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. So the purpose of approaching the bona fide spiritual master is to inquire about Shreya. Shreya means? Yes, the ultimate goal. So only when one is serious to inquire about spiritual subject matters, which is ultimate Shreya, then one should approach a bona fide spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada would often say that accepting a spiritual master is not a matter of fashion, just like one keeps a dog. So it's not a matter of fashion. Sometimes people also become very eager to get initiated just to have the title of so and so, Das, Dasi, but they forget the import of that word Das. And then it simply becomes a fashion. Oh, I have an initiated name. But it's not simply a matter of fashion. So the real qualification is what? One who has understood the futility of material sense gratification. So one should at least be convinced of the fact that material sense gratification is not going to give me happiness. So then one is serious to approach a bona fide spiritual master for understanding spiritual truths and not simply a matter of fashion. And then after the initiation is finished, all business finished. No, not like that. Go ahead. Okay, so that was first one, Guru Pada Ashraya. The second one is Shri Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. So in this context, he quotes from again the 11th canto. Okay, read from Prabhupada's book first. Accepting initiation from the spiritual master and receiving instructions from him.
Sage Prabuddha continued to speak to the king as follows. My dear king, a disciple has to accept the spiritual master not only as a spiritual master but also as a representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead and Super Soul. In other words, the disciple should accept the spiritual master as God because he is the external manifestation of Krishna. This is confirmed in every scripture, and a disciple should accept the spiritual master as such. One should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respects and veneration for the spiritual master. Hearing and speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is the religious process which elevates one to the platform of serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The attitude of disciple should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master, then it will be very easy for him to understand the spiritual knowledge. This is confirmed in the Vedas, and the Rupa Goswami will further explain that for a person who has unflinching faith in God and spiritual master, everything becomes revealed very easily.
Right, so what is the reference from the Vedas for this? Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tada guru tasyeta katita yartha prakashante matmana. This is from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. So yes, so only unto those who have implicit faith in both the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master. As much faith in the Supreme Lord, same faith in the spiritual master. Then when one has that faith and follows the instructions, then all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are revealed. Revealed. Okay? So this is the verse that is quoting 11.3.22. So accepting the bona fide spiritual master as one's life and soul and worshipable deity, the disciple should learn from him the process of pure bhakti by sincere service. So one learns how? By sincere service, not just by reading books. Reading books is also a service, but that's not the only service. So if one thinks one can realize spiritual truth simply by reading the books, it doesn't work that way. So therefore, tadvidhi pranipati. The first thing is pranipat. First thing is there has to be surrender. Then pariprashnena, then sevaya. Then upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. So therefore Prabhupada is writing here also. The attitude of the disciple should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. And then Krishna himself showed through his own example. We know the well-known pastime of? Kaun sa 6 sense? Yes, Krishna and Sudama going to the ashram of Sandipani Muni, and they went to collect firewood and they got lost in the forest. We know that pastime. And then the next day when Sandipani Muni came searching for his disciples, and he found these two boys still holding the logs of wood. Yes, then he gave benediction. What benediction he gave? Yes, whatever you have studied in the ashram will remain ever fresh. You will not forget. So, if you want to remember this knowledge, then it requires blessings. And blessings come by service, by pleasing. So, this is not like material knowledge. Material knowledge, okay, one studies, one forgets, and one does something altogether different. So many things happen, correct? But spiritual knowledge, if one wants to remember, apply. We may read the books, just like Ajamil had knowledge. But when he saw that scene, what happened? All the knowledge was covered, lost. He could not remember. So, to apply the knowledge at the right time in the various situations that will come in life requires blessings. Otherwise, one can study the scriptures, memorize the verses, everything one can do. But if one doesn't have the blessings by which one gets realization, then when the knowledge is needed most, one may forget. Because ultimately, who gives remembrance? Was Matta Smriti Jnanam Apo. So Krishna is giving all that. So for that, one has to attract blessings. Right? Okay, next. Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada, please read.
The criterion is that a devotee must know what Krishna wants him to do. This understanding can be achieved through the medium of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami advised Ado Guru Ashrayam, one who is serious in wanting to render pure devotional service to the Lord must take shelter of a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession from Krishna. Evam parampara prapti imam rajeshayo vidu. Without accepting a bona fide spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession, one cannot find out the real purpose of devotional service. Therefore, one has to accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and agree to be directed by him. The first business of a pure devotee is to satisfy his spiritual master, whose only business is to spread Krishna consciousness, and if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasada.
Yes. So, therefore, one has to accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and what? Agree to be directed by him. Not that I've accepted, bas, finished. No, agree to be directed by him. I think so. I told that incident, right, of that devotee who wanted to read a lot of books. No, he didn't go. The senior devotees were telling him to go. What he said? Yes. He said, no, I'll not ask my spiritual master because I know he'll not give permission. Then why did he accept? So therefore, one has to be serious about these things. So to the degree one is serious, to that degree one will make progress. And therefore one has to find out what are the instructions that one is expected to follow and follow them properly. And then of course we discussed these points in Bhagavad Gita also. That okay, spiritual master may not be directly available, then we have to follow some representative of the spiritual master and agree to follow those instructions. Then, if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. Srila Prabhupada gives a simple example. He says, just like you're working in an office, so there is a clerk who's working, and there could be the manager of the company. So if the manager wants to know if the clerk is working well or not, whom does he ask? He asks the in charge of that clerk, some supervisor or someone. So he says, even in the outside world, the same principle. So it's not that the manager may know all the people in the company, but then through his representatives he finds out. So that's how the principle always works. And so here also it works in the same way. Okay, next. Right, this we had discussed, if you remember, in our Bhagavad Gita classes. Correct? Anyway, read.
The incidents herein described is very significant.
Okay, so the context of this is what? Jad Bharat is speaking to Maharaj Raghugana about his past life.
In a previous verse it is stated, Bina Mahat Pad Rajo Abhishek. One cannot attain perfection without smearing the dust from the lotus feet of an exalted devotee on his head. If one always follows the order of the spiritual master, there is no question of falling down. As soon as a foolish disciple tries to overtake his spiritual master and become ambitious to occupy his post, he immediately falls down. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya aprasadat nagati kutopi. If the spiritual master is considered an ordinary man, the disciple surely loses his chance to advance further. Despite a very rigid life in devotional service, Bharat Maharaj did not consult a spiritual master when he became overly attached to a deer. Consequently, he became strongly attached to the deer, and forgetting his spiritual routine, he fell down.
So, despite a very rigid life in devotional service, so he's following everything very rigidly, his spiritual practices. But the mistake was, when he brought the deer into the ashram, he didn't ask anyone. He didn't consult anyone. Correct? So we may say, we don't bring any deer into the ashram. Ujjwal Nirmal Prabhu is saying, in the mind we'll bring. So we have our own deer, representative of the deer. It could be so many other things. So therefore, one has to be careful, because that one thing that he did without asking, and then he became attached to it, overly attached to it, to the extent that he started justifying his attachment to the deer. Right? So many verses in the Bhagavatam where he justifies. That's how the mind works. So one does something wrong, and then one justifies it. So therefore, some devotees also give very nice advice. They say, see, if you go to ask permission, you may not get permission. So better is do the activity what you want to do, and then inform. Good advice, right? So then this will happen. Bring the deer first, then get attached. By the time it's too late. So therefore, these are all, we should not take them lightly. There are enough evidences within our own society for all these mistakes that have happened. So therefore, all these things are there in Shastra. So of course, the Acharyas very clearly explain that this pastime of Bharat Maharaj was especially orchestrated by the Supreme Lord himself for teaching all of us a good lesson as to what is the result of material attachments for a sadhaka. This is the lesson which Krishna himself wanted to teach all the sadhakas. So this is for our understanding that how one needs to be extremely careful. And in the first part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada has explained the sure short way not to fall down and the sure way to fall down. The sure way not to fall down is, if one always. What is most important, that should be. If one always follows the instructions of the spiritual master, there is no question of falling down. It's difficult. What is easy in life? Yeah? Is there anything easy in life? If one wants to become successful, everything is difficult. Nothing is cheap. In the outside world, what one can get easily? Oh, really? You get sense gratification easily? Come on. The whole world, they're running here, there, working from morning to night for what? So that is easy. They're struggling hard for that. Doesn't come easy. In fact, by mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, devotional life has become much more easier. But that is the important point. Always, always. You take the mic.
Just I want to inquire that here it is the sentence coming, if one doesn't follow the order of a spiritual master, there is no question of falling down. It is just
One always follows.
One always follows the order of spiritual master. It is coming just after Bina Mahat Pad Rajo Abhisekam. It means that if we follow the instruction of spiritual master, then it means that we are taking bath in the dust of the lotus feet of the Mahat.
Correct. That's correct. And then what is the sure way to fall down? As soon as a foolish disciple tries to overtake his spiritual master, becomes ambitious to occupy his post, then what happens? Immediately falls down. That means he thinks he's better than his spiritual master. So therefore he thinks, why should I follow? He thinks he's better. Becomes ambitious to occupy the post of the spiritual master. So basically he makes his mind the spiritual master. That is what happens. He makes his mind the spiritual master, and then the mind takes him for a ride. So then he immediately falls down. So we told that instant now that devotee wanted to construct a temple, we told that, right? Then what happened? So then what happened? Yeah, so then he became the victim of an unauthorized so-called spiritualist. So all these things happen. Not new. And see, this doesn't happen, these are not examples of devotees who have just come into the movement and spent 2 years, 3 years. No! These are devotees who have spent 20, 30, 40 years in the movement, preaching nicely, made so many devotees for such devotees. In Pune also there's one example, correct? I don't know how many of you know, but anyway. So, there was one very prominent preacher coming here from Juhu. And then same thing happened. So, at one point of time when the devotee was coming here, everyone was so impressed with him, so impressed. He was so good in everything. But then asatsang. So we're coming to that anyway. We're coming to that. Asatsang. But the important point is, then at that time, they don't even consult the spiritual master. They give up the bona fide spiritual master and take diksha from another bogus fellow. That time they don't even bother to ask the spiritual master. Just see the illusion. For so many years, they have preached and told others importance of following instructions of the spiritual master, and they themselves become illusion. You see, that is the power of Maya. So one may be giving instructions to others, but then one could oneself be influenced by Maya and forget all about it. Just see the power of Maya. Just see. Therefore, one should always maintain a humble position. Never think, oh, now I've become a big preacher. Now I've delivered so many souls. Now Maya cannot touch me. That is why the example of Bharat Maharaj is there. That how much ever elevated one has become, still Maya is always more intelligent. Because Maya is Krishna's energy. So just like Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu thought he was so smart, he had all these conditions, and he thought, now I become immortal. But then Prabhupada says, but Krishna is always more smart than you. So when Lord came as Lord Narasimhadev, he fulfilled all those conditions and yet finished him. So that is why, very important. Remain, and that's why Srila Prabhupada always gives the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, even though he was Supreme Lord, how did he present himself before his spiritual master? Guru more murkha deki korila shasan. Fool number one, Prabhupada says. Fool number one. Even though he is Supreme Lord, that's how he presents himself. That is a safe position. So if one has that attitude, one has that mood, then it's very safe. Then one will always follow the instructions properly, and then one will remain safe. The moment one thinks, oh, now I become great, now I become big, I brought so many people into devotional service, this, that, one becomes proud, Maya will take over. Go ahead. Okay, this one we'll take before the break. Okay, so the next is Sadhu Marganu Gamanam. No, what is it? Sadhu.
Serving the spiritual master. Yeah.
I think so, he gives a slightly different. Sadhu Vartmanu Vartate. Correct. So, okay, let's read from Prabhupada's book. Okay, following the footsteps. Okay, following the footsteps of saintly persons. Okay, read the first two paragraphs.
In the Skanda Puran, it is advised that a devotee follow the past acharyas and saintly persons, because by such following one can achieve the desired results, with no chance of lamenting or being baffled in his progress. The scripture known as Brahma Yamal states as follows. If someone wants to pose himself as a great devotee without following the authorities of the revealed scriptures, then his activities will never help him to make progress in devotional service. Instead, he will simply create disturbance for the sincere students of devotional service. Those who do not strictly follow the principles of revealed scriptures are generally called sahajiyas. Those who have imagined everything to be cheap, who have their own concocted ideas, and who do not follow the scriptural injunctions. Such persons are simply creating disturbances in the discharge of devotional service.
Yes, so the verse is Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidambina Ekantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpateva Kalpate. So even if a person seems to have attained steadiness in practicing pure bhakti to the Lord, that bhakti is a misfortune if it rejects the rules of Shruti, Smriti, Purana and Pancharatra due to lack of faith. Quite interesting. Even if a person seems to have attained steadiness, So that means at all times one always has to follow the scriptures. Not that now I become advanced, now I don't have to follow. No. At all times one needs to follow. And of course, specifically referring to the Sahajiyas, who think themselves to be very advanced, but their devotional practices are not in accordance with scriptures, and therefore the result is utpats, havoc. So regarding this, we'll discuss again when we come to Raganuga Bhakti. So, but then the important point is that how one always needs to follow the injunctions of the scriptures. And so in that context, Rupa Goswami describes about Lord Buddha, who rejected the scriptures for a particular time, place, circumstances. We know about that. Prabhupada is describing Lord Buddha. You can read that on your own. What's next? Okay, this is about asatsang. So we'll discuss this after the break. Any questions on discussion so far? Okay, good. So we'll take a 10 minutes break and then continue with this asatsang. Very important discussion. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So there are some small principles which we are not discussing. You can read on your own, okay? Not much explanation. So in between, okay, before we go to this, okay, we'll read some important ones. So after that, there is inquiring about eternal religious principles. This is Sadharma Pricha. So Jignasu Shreya Uttamam. So same thing. Being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. So whatever is anukul, we accept that. Whatever is pratikul, we give up. Residing in a sacred place. So this we will again discuss when we discuss the Panchang Bhakti. So residing in a sacred place. Then accepting only what is necessary. Okay, read this. Accepting only what is necessary.
Only what is necessary. In the Naradiya Purana, it is directed, one should not accept more than necessary if he is serious about discharging devotional service. The purport is that one should not neglect following the principles of devotional service, nor should one accept the rulings of devotional service, which are more than what he can easily perform. For example, it may be said that one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra at least 100,000 times daily on his beads. But if this is not possible, then one must minimize his chanting according to his own capacity. Generally, we recommend our disciples to chant at least 16 rounds on their japa beads daily, and this should be completed. But if one is not even able to chant 16 rounds, then he must make it up the next day. He must be sure to keep his vow. If he does not strictly follow this out, then he is sure to be negligent. That is offensive in the service of the Lord. If we encourage offenses, we shall not be able to make progress in devotional service. It is better if one fixes of a regulative principle according to his own ability and then follows that vow without fail. That will make him advanced in spiritual life.
So the important principle here is one should accept only things according to his capacity. One should not accept more than what is one's capacity. So just like chanting. So minimum 16 rounds. That is for everyone, minimum 16 rounds. But one should not think that, well, my capacity is more, I can chant more. So we all know that famous story of one Prabhupada disciple who decided to chant 64 rounds every day. Even though Srila Prabhupada told him, no. So Srila Prabhupada knew that it was not his capacity. And so Srila Prabhupada said, no, you chant 16 rounds, do services. But he thought, no, Prabhupada doesn't know my capacity. And that is the meaning of what? Trying to occupy the position of the spiritual master. And then so he went away to chant 64 rounds every day. And then what happened? Huh? Yes, so then he landed up at the petrol pump. That was the result of his chanting 64 rounds. So, this is what happens. If one thinks, I'm very smart and I can do more than what is my capacity. So therefore, that is why the guidance is required. How much one can do, how much one can chant, how much one can read, how much one can fast. So for all these things, therefore, guidance is required. So the mind will cheat one by taking one to the extremes. So one extreme is doing more than what one can do, and the other extreme is being totally negligent. Both are extremes, and both are wrong. Therefore, one must know what is one's capacity and do accordingly. And so if one thinks, okay, I have a capacity to do a little more, then better take some guidance and then do accordingly. So one should never think that, well, I'm smart enough to figure out things on my own. Similarly, how much service can I do? So all these things. So accepting only what is necessary. Okay, next, observing fasting on Ekadashi.
In the Bhagavad Purana, it is said that one who observes fasting on Ekadasi day is freed from all kinds of reactions to sinful activities and advanced in pious life. The basic principle is not just to fast, but to increase one's faith and love for Govinda or Krishna. The real reason for observing fasting Ekadasi is to minimize the demands of the body and to engage our time in the service of the Lord by chanting or performing similar service. The best thing to do on fasting day is to remember the pastimes of Govinda and to hear his holy name constantly.
So what is the purpose of fasting? Yes, reducing the demands of the body and increasing spiritual activities. The purpose of the fasting is not that I fast and sleep. So it's not fasting for the sake of fasting. Not that I've successfully fasted Nirjal and I successfully slept 24 hours. It should not happen that way. So the main purpose of the fasting is so that one can increase the spiritual activities. That is the main purpose. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada was not fanatic about the fasting. So okay, so one is not able to fast Nirjal or something, okay, take whatever is required, but do the service, the devotional service. That should be increased, not decreased. And so that also applies to this Nirjal Ekadashi, that once in a year Nirjal Ekadashi. Not that on that Nirjal Ekadashi, I have to fast Nirjal even if it means going to the hospital. Now we're telling this because in some places it has become fanatical. I heard in some temple, the temple president told everyone has to do nirjal. So this is simply fanaticism. That's not the mood. So if one is not able to do nirjal, okay, do according to capacity. So it's we have to understand in Kali Yuga, human bodies are very fragile. Capacity is very less to do tapasya. So therefore Mahaprabhu has given a very simple process. Srila Prabhupada has made it even more easier. But no more shortcuts. But the important point is one should not be fanatical about these things. The main thing is, okay, according to one's capacity, whatever austerity is possible, do that. But the focus that Srila Prabhupada especially gave on was the positive aspect, and that is to render service. That is what Srila Prabhupada emphasized. So even for regular Ekadashis, when Srila Prabhupada was asked, should we do Nirjal or should we chant 25 rounds or 64 rounds? Srila Prabhupada said, okay, if it's possible for you to do, you do. But we have a lot of service to do. No compromise on the service. That was the principle. You have something?
This, as in the beginning it was being discussed that these 64 are principles, not details. So because this is coming as, so like when Rupa Goswami is writing fasting on Ekadasi, so he could have as well kind of wrote it like that, okay, remembrance of Krishna.
No,
but he is writing it as,
but what is that fasting from? What is the fasting from? Huh?
Fasting
yes, the fasting from grains is not optional.
That's it. So
that is compulsory.
So the extra what somebody does, that is a detail.
The fasting is fasting from grains and beans. That fasting is compulsory. So therefore that is principle. There's no compromise there. But after that, how much one can fast, that's a detail.
In this connection, that even Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's statement that you can, if
that's another extreme. I mean exception. Yes, that's exception. Take grains but preach. That's an exception. If like for example, if somebody is very sick and for whatever reason he has to take some grains, then what can be done? So those are exceptions.
Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is written that on Ekadashi somebody is eating grain, even a non-devotee. He is eating like a meat.
Correct.
Like that is
because it is sinful, no? It is sinful. Anybody eats grains on Ekadashi, it is sinful.
So, like in our temple, previously, there were sabudana and some varai like that.
See, that was not done willingly. That was unknowingly some things happened. Okay, next. Next, Pado.
Offering respects to the banyan trees. In the Skanda Puran, it is directed that a devotee should offer water to the tulsi plant and amalaka trees. He should offer respect to the cows and to the brahmanas and should serve the Vaishnavas by offering them respectful obeisances and meditating upon them. All of these processes will help the devotee to diminish the reactions to his past sinful activities.
Right. So here, when this Anga of Bhakti, what is given? Offering respect to banyan tree, what else? Amalaka trees, what else? Tulsi, cows, brahmanas, Vaishnavas. There are 6 items here. It is not just banyan tree. It is not just banyan tree. And so, the Acharyas commenting on this, they say that for Vaishnavas, what is most important is serving Tulsi and Vaishnavas. That is what is most important. Cows and brahmanas for pious people in general. Of course, cows are always dear to the Lord, and as devotees also we worship cows. But what is most important is Tulsi and devotees. That is what is most important. And so that is what Srila Prabhupada has taught us, and that is what we follow. So by that, this Anga of Bhakti is covered. And so Srila Prabhupada has introduced Tulsi Puja, and by that this Anga of Bhakti is covered. All right? Somebody had a doubt now about this banyan tree. But that is how this Anga of Bhakti is covered. And we're serving Vaishnavas. Huh? What? Yes, the heading is banyan tree, but in the purport, no banyan tree. Of course, in the Skanda Puran, that is a quote from the Skanda Puran says Tulsi plant, Amalaka trees. But in any case, the practical application of that is what Srila Prabhupada has taught us. And Srila Prabhupada has taught us worshipping Tulsi, and that's it. You have something? No? Okay, go ahead. Giving up the company of non-devotees. Okay, read the first two paragraphs.
Lord Chaitanya was once asked by one of his householder devotees what the general behavior of a Vaishnava should be. In this connection, Lord Chaitanya replied that a Vaishnava should always give up the company of non-devotees. Then he explained that there are two kinds of non-devotees. One class is against the supremacy of Krishna, and other class is too materialistic. In other words, those who are after material enjoyment and those who are against the supremacy of the Lord are called Avaishnava, and their company should be strictly avoided. In the Katyayana Samhita, it is stated that even if one is forced to live within a cage of iron or in the midst of a blazing fire, he should accept this position rather than live with non-devotees who are through and through against the Supreme Personality of Lord, supremacy of the Lord. Similarly, in the Vishnu Rahasya, there is a statement to the effect that one should prefer to embrace a snake or a tiger or an alligator rather than associate with persons who are worshippers of various demigods and who are impelled by material desire.
So why such strong statements are made? So what will happen if one lives in a cage of iron in the midst of blazing fire?
He'll die.
So why such heavy statement? You die. Yes. So it is better to die rather than associate with non-devotees. Because by associating with non-devotees, one's service attitude will be killed. So, Mahaprabhu has said, Asat Sang Tyag, E Vaishnavaja. And then he clarified, who is that Asat Sang? Sri Sangi, Ega Sadhu, Krishna Abhakta. So two types of asatsang. One is Sri Sangi, that is gross materialist, who is simply interested in sense gratification. And the other is Krishna Abhakta. So under Krishna Abhakta there can be Mayavadis, Karmis, Jnanis, Sahajiyas. So all these come under the category of Krishna Bhakta. So all of their association has to be given up. So now, as far as we are concerned, what are the various ways in which we could be affected by asatsang? What are different ways we could be affected by asatsang?
General gossip of outside world, what happens?
General gossip about the outside world. How one is...
Then he becomes interested in something like cat. That curiosity kills the cat.
Okay.
He wants to know more about what's happening outside. What is the outside atmosphere in terms of politics, this, that.
Okay, that's one way possible. Okay, attraction towards material things. Okay,
It's
fine.
kind of distraction.
Okay, it's a distraction. Okay.
One more point.
Huh?
One more point is about they tend to they have no understanding of Vaishnava devotees, So they tend to blaspheme also, like fault finding, and that actually destroys our faith.
Yes, that's good. Yes, so if you associate with non-devotees, then they may blaspheme the devotees, they show disrespect towards to the devotees, and that contaminates our consciousness. Yes, bro.
Ruju, while using gadgets for the sake of service, we may distract sometimes. For example, some news politicals comes or cricket news as advertisement. We may distract by seeing that.
Okay, fine. So while using various gadgets, one could get distracted, correct? What else? What are the other ways one could be affected by satsang as practicing devotees?
Taking more interest in this politics and the general going whatever.
Okay, taking more interest in the materialistic talks, yes. Shukna Babu?
Hearing from unauthorized sources.
Yes, very important. Hearing from unauthorized, non-bona fide sources. And similarly?
Not hearing.
Yes, reading from
Unauthorized
unauthorized books. Both of them come in the category of asatsang. And these days it's very easily available. And it's a fact, but there are many ISKCON devotees also who hear some unauthorized lectures, because so many things are available, right? So easy now. And then devotees who have got a little bored with reading our books and hearing ISKCON devotees, then they want some new nectar. And then there are so many avenues available. And the mind will say, oh, doesn't matter, he speaks Bhagavad Katha only. Very nice Bhagavad Katha. So exciting and so wonderful stories. You'll be in ecstasy hearing that. Forget about these ISKCON lectures, boring all the time, same thing. And so our ISKCON devotees go. It's a fact. And that's how it all begins. So I was mentioning about that famous preacher who was coming to Pune. Then same thing happened. So then he got one Baba to hear. And for some reason he began to hear. And then he thought, wow, this person is speaking so wonderfully. And in fact, so he started getting that contamination, and when he was coming here to give classes, he started downloading some of that contamination here. And we were getting bewildered. What is this new thing this person has started speaking? Very surprising. And then, of course, it was just a matter of time. Then within a few days, he went. So the point is that we should be very careful, because initially what the mind will say, just one lecture, one lecture only. Just little I just want to find out what this person is talking. Like that the mind will say, justify. But if one does not have the adhikar, so especially preachers, usually the excuse is always preaching. I want to know what this person is saying so that I can use him as an example for preaching. But we should know what our adhikar is. If we don't have the adhikar, then better don't touch. Because that's how, as I said, these devotees were not new devotees who drifted away. They were senior devotees. after many years of practice. But so powerful is asatsang. Therefore, there are such heavy quotes here. That asatsang is so powerful. And then once one will hear, then the mind gets attracted. Then what the mind will say? One more lecture. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter. You hear here also, there also. Then as the other person is speaking in such amazing, wonderful ways, mesmerizing the audience, then the mind gets more attracted there. And slowly, one will start drifting to the other side. We are not speaking some mythological things. These are all facts which have happened right in front of our eyes. That is why in the Nectar of Instruction, this is only one instruction which Rupa Goswami has repeated twice. Where? Yes. Atyahara prayasaja prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyamcha shadbir bhakti vinashyat. And the next verse? Utsanesha dhairya tatat karma pravatanat sangatyagat. This is the only instruction which is repeated twice by Rupa Goswami. That is how important this asatsang is. Because everything begins from there. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, how many places Srila Prabhupada gave that warning, quoting from Sanatana Goswami? What? Avaishnavo mukodginam putahari katamritam shravanam na kartavyam sarpochishta yathapayaha. So the milk touched by the lips of a serpent. So initially if we take that milk, it may look like milk only. One will not be able to differentiate. But when one drinks it, then gradually the wonderful effects will be manifest. So that's how initially one will feel, oh, what is there? It's Bhagavad Katha, it's Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, the person is speaking in a very nice way. And sometimes it's very difficult to detect these Mayavadis, because they also speak exactly the same things. Externally it will appear it is the same thing. But where is the contamination? In the consciousness. And we know the famous example of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami and Ramdas. You know the story, right? So this Ramdas, he was 24 hours chanting the names of Lord Ram. And he had such humble service attitudes. Even Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was impressed. Just imagine, even Raghunath Bhatta Goswami could not detect this Mayavadi. Then what to speak of us? Until they reached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Mahaprabhu had to tell him, oh, he's chanting. But for what? To become Ram. So we may not be able to detect this contamination within the consciousness. But if we hear, we associate, then Mahaprabhu has given warning. Mayavada bhashya shunle, oi sarvanash. These are not exaggerations. These are facts. So when one associates with the Mayavadis, what happens? The service attitude is killed. Because Mayavad means you are God, I am God. Then whom to serve? And that is what happens. Then, then one gets contaminated by that, and here we are told to serve. One will think, why should I serve? Then one is forced to leave. One can't stay here, because if one stays here, one has to serve. That's what happens. and then one gets nowhere. Then those who leave and go away to some other organization, they'll land up nowhere. Most of them may come back to material life, basically. That's what happens. So therefore, such heavy instructions are being given on asatsang. Similarly, books. One may think, oh, what is there? This book, it's only some paper, some words. What is there? But what one is doing when one is reading a book? Yes, associating with the author of the book. That's why we're reading Prabhupada books, so that we associate with Prabhupada. Similarly, we read other books, we associate with the author. And what happens is, sometimes we have seen these things happening. So when one reads these other books, where authors may write in very amazing language and all that, then after reading those books, then the devotee begins to, then when he reads these books, then one will think, oh, Prabhupada books are very simple. Very simple. One fails to understand the spiritual potency of these books. The same principle applies to lectures. So one may prefer so many other lectures over Prabhupada's lectures, but as long as they're bona fide, no problem. But one should never underestimate the spiritual potency of Srila Prabhupada's lectures. And I think so we have shown this quote many times. 4th canto, 20th chapter, 25th verse. You remember that? No. Anyone remembers this quote from Srila Prabhupada's purport? Okay, we'll show it once again, no problem. 4:20, 25. Go to the second paragraph of the purport. I think so we can read the translation. Okay, go to the translation also. Okay, read the translation. This is Prithu Maharaj speaking to Lord Vishnu.
My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the values of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee.
Okay, so this is Prithu Maharaj. Just in the previous verse, he requested for millions of years to hear from millions of pure devotees. And so here he's explaining why he wants to hear from the pure devotees. Here he's explaining that. Okay, now go to the second paragraph. Read that.
A pure devotee always engages in the service of Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet, and therefore he has direct connection with the saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky, the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. As soon as a sleeping living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of pure devotee, he immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment he had forgotten everything.
Yes. We have shown this before, right? No? At least one person remembers. So, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that how, because the pure devotee has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, therefore he has received the mercy of the Lord. And therefore when he speaks, even though it appears like ordinary sound vibration, that speech is filled with what? Spiritually potent, because of the mercy That sound vibration is filled with the mercy of the Lord. Saffron mercy dust particles. And therefore it becomes spiritually potent. Therefore, the basis on which we decide whom to associate with is what? Who is engaged in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet. So the more we associate with those who are surrendered to the Lord, the more we get spiritual benefits. Is this point clear? Otherwise, sometimes people choose the speakers for different reasons. Some choose for jokes, humor, some choose for information. There could be many reasons. But if one chooses for those reasons, one will get that only. You hear for jokes, you will get jokes. And one's life also will become a joke. One hears for information, that's what one will get. And that's why the Bhagavatam is compared to Kalpavriksha. The Bhagavatam is compared to desire tree. As one approaches the Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam will reveal accordingly. It's ye yatha mam prapadyante. But if one hears for spiritual advancement, from those who are spiritually advanced, that's what one will get. So that should be the basis for choosing one's association. Not how my mind is going to be satisfied. So we should be careful. So okay, new people it's all right. They may have different motives for hearing. But if we want to make progress in devotional service, then we should choose the right association. And that should be the basis. Who is most surrendered? Who has taken shelter of the Lord? Then, because to the degree one has taken shelter, then the voice becomes spiritually potent. And then what to speak of people outside of ISKCON whose surrender is questionable, then that is dangerous. Is this point clear? Okay, fine. Go ahead. No. Okay. Okay, something from Srila Prabhupada's purports, please read.
While the bhakti creeper is growing, the devotee must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. In this way, he will not give the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Asat Sangya Tyaga, Ehi Vaishnavachar. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the company of non-devotees. A so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotees, he must associate with non-devotees at satsang. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in, that is, by following the regulatory principles and associating with pure devotees.
What does following the regulatory principles mean? Which regulatory principles are these? Yes, not 4 regulatory principles. Okay, 4 regulative principles are not angas of bhakti. They are simply to avoid sinful life. But when this word regulative principles comes, if it's not specifically mentioned 4 regulative principles, then it indicates the 64 angas of bhakti. So by following all the rules and regulations and by keeping company with devotees, that is equivalent to fencing. That is how one is protected. Always be in the association of devotees and in the association follow the rules and regulations nicely. That is how one's bhakti lata will be protected. Now Srila Prabhupada is writing that when one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. What is the connection? What is the connection between associating with non-devotees and mad elephant? Huh?
It destroys the bhakti lata.
No, that is after the elephant enters. But what is the connection between associating with non-devotees and maddened elephant? That means Vaishnava Prad.
Vaishnav Ninda. Because once one associates with non-devotees, he takes their association and then he thinks this association is very nice and then he criticizes the devotees.
Correct. So basically one loses respect for devotees when one associates with non-devotees because they have a different value system. So if one associates with the non-devotees, then one will tend to think certain other things to be more important than devotional service. So just like many times devotees do ask this question, that it appears that the Ritviks are very successful. Correct? Many times devotees also ask this question. So my standard answer is, what is the definition of success? But this is what happens. When one associates with non-devotees, the value system changes. Then what one thinks success is?
Dhanam Janam Sundari.
Yes, money, buildings, followers, mundane reputation. One thinks these are signs of success. And if one associates with non-devotees, then one will think that this is what I should achieve to be successful in devotional service. That is how the value system changes. Then one thinks, to get puja, labh, pratishta, material resources, I will do anything. I will cheat, I will offend, I will do anything because that is success. Those results, that is success. That is the result of asatsang. These are the weeds that grow along with the bhakti lata. That is what happens. And that's how, when one associates with non-devotees, then one loses respect for devotees, the devotional principles, and then one offends devotees. That is what happens. As Prabhupada is writing, man is a social animal. So if he does not associate with devotees, he has to associate with non-devotees. He cannot be without association. Somewhere he has to associate. So therefore, one has to be very careful to always take the association of devotees, proper devotees who have the proper value system, who have the proper goals, the proper motivations. Otherwise, this is what will happen. Mad elephant offense. And then everything will be uprooted. So therefore, the protection is to always remain with pure devotees. Pure devotees means devotees who have the right goal, the right values. So always associate with such devotees and following the rules and regulations in that association, that is what will protect. Next. This, I'm sure this I had shown before. Read.
Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna conscious society, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master. And if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instructions concerning the regulative principles in chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot,
become a pure devotee.
hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. By one's mental concoctions, one falls down. By associating with non-devotees, one breaks the regulative principles and is thereby lost.
Yes. So this is the emphasis Srila Prabhupada is giving on remaining within ISKCON. These are purports which Srila Prabhupada has written specially for ISKCON devotees. And therefore it's very important for ISKCON devotees to read Srila Prabhupada's purports. Otherwise one will miss all these important instructions. It's not just about philosophy. So here Prabhupada is so emphatically saying, even if one thinks it is not reality, but even if one thinks, as some devotees do say this, oh, Prabhupada is saying one must always associate with pure devotees. Where are pure devotees in ISKCON? So who's a pure devotee? We have already explained this before. So who's the pure devotee? Yes. One who's following the process of pure devotional service with the proper intention, with the proper motive, he is to be considered pure devotee. What's that? That's definite. That is needless to say. By reading Prabhupada books, one associates with Srila Prabhupada. That's needless to say. But people have a problem with other devotees. So we should understand, any devotee who is sincerely following the process is to be considered a pure devotee. So the point is, but even if one thinks that there are only pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in society, still Prabhupada is saying, stick to the society, don't leave ISKCON. Okay, at least one person you accept as pure devotee, your spiritual master. If one doesn't even accept that one person, then gone case. Then it's gone case. But if he accepts at least that one person as pure devotee, then at least follow his instructions. Then that will save him, then he'll remain. Because then the spiritual master will say, you remain in ISKCON and serve the devotees. But you see the emphasis Prabhupada is given. And of course, another important reference which we have also quoted before, 4th canto, 9th chapter, text 11. You remember that? Okay, show. 4, 9, 11. Famous verse, just go to the first paragraph. So here Dhruva Maharaj, after having seen the Lord, darshan of the Lord, he is praying for association of devotees. And you see what Prabhupada writes?
We have therefore established the International Society.
Read one sentence before that.
Transcendental devotional service cannot be complete and cannot be relishable without the association of devotees. We have therefore established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Anyone who is trying to be aloof from this Krishna conscious society and yet engage in Krishna consciousness is living in a great hallucination, for this is not possible.
Not possible. Not possible. No need to do some experiments here. Prabhupada has written with firm conviction, not possible. So two important effects of remaining in association. What is that? Devotional service becomes complete and relishable in the association. So we know how it becomes relishable. How it becomes relishable? Yes, Machitta, Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta, Parasparam, Katayantasya Mam Nityam, Tushyanti cha Ramanti. That's how one becomes satisfied and happy in the association of devotees. And then one will make progress, and then the devotional service will become complete. So all these are very important points in connection to association. Any questions on this? We have something more? What's next? Okay, read this. Okay, we'll take question. Read this.
One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous acharyas Eichhoy Gosai Jar Muitar Das. One should always think of oneself as a servant of the Acharyas. And thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas.
That's how one should live in the society of devotees, in the mode of servant of the Acharyas.
However, if one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas.
So, just a moment. So, you have seen in the previous purports also, in this purport also, Prabhupada uses one phrase, so-called mature devotee. In the previous purport also, twice Prabhupada has used, so-called mature devotee. See, those who are new usually are quite careful. We're new people, so they're quite careful. And those who are actually advanced and mature, they're always humble, so they also remain careful. Those are in between land up in problem. So-called mature. They're not so mature, but they imagine themselves to be very mature. Then there's a problem. Okay, go ahead.
If one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of the Vaishnavas and thus give up all the regulative principles due to offending a Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. Offenses against the holy name are explained in Adi Lila, chapter 8, verse 24. Giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the Bhakti Lata and breaks it to pieces. In this way, the Bhakti Lata shrivels up. Such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called Guru Avagya. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offenses against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the Bhakti Lata begins, and gradually all the leaves dry up.
Yes. So that's what happens. When one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master, associates with non-devotees, then the Bhakti Lata dries up. See, this is science, Krishna conscious science. One can't play around. And there are enough examples to illustrate this. So therefore, prevention is better than cure. So one has to be careful. See, something more on this? Okay, read.
By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one nourishes the Bhakti Lata by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Sravana Kirtana, hearing and chanting. In this way, the seed of the Bhakti Lata sprouts and grows up and up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. The Bhakti Lata continues to grow until it reaches the topmost planetary system, Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna lives. There the creeper takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is its final destination. At that time, the creeper begins to grow the fruits of ecstatic love of God. It is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the creeper to be very careful. It is said that the watering of the creeper must continue. Ihamali seche nitto sravana di jal. It is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing and become a mature devotee. If one stops, one certainly falls down from devotional service. Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, he should not give up the watering process of Sravana Kirtan. If one gives up that process, it is due to an offense.
Yes. So due to offenses, one loses taste for hearing and chanting, one gives up the hearing and chanting, then what happens? The leaves of the Bhakti Lata will dry up. Just like a plant or a tree. How long the tree requires water? Throughout life. Any point of time the tree does not get water, what will happen? Any doubts? This is science. So the same principle applies here. One may say, oh, I did Shravanam Kirtanam for the last 30 years, 40 years. Yeah, bahut ho gaya, abhi, little relax. No. Any point of time one stops, dry. So therefore Prabhupada is writing, what? Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, very much exalted in devotional service, process has to be followed. So actually, if one is actually very exalted, then he develops more taste. Then he will automatically follow. That is the actual meaning of being exalted. It's not based on number of years. If one has actually made spiritual progress, then he will develop more taste and he'll be more eager to hear and chant. Not that I've spent 30 years, I've become senior, then I don't have to hear and chant. No, that means he has spent years, but he has not made progress. Because if one has actually made spiritual progress, the taste for hearing and chanting will increase. So if one is saying, I become senior, so therefore I don't need to attend morning program, I don't need to hear class, that means he has not actually made progress. He has not actually understood the meaning of devotion. Many times we have given you example of Jananamas Prabhu, correct? So you can see. Not only Jananamas Prabhu, there are so many other senior devotees one can see in Mayapur. Every day, so sincerely they attend the whole morning program. You can see that. They are so old, almost 80 years old. Why somewhere else? Here itself we have seen. Trivikram Maharaj we have seen. How old is? 84 years old. You have seen? Every day he was there. And so many other devotees. Yes, Shankarshan Prabhu. So many others. You can see them. We have to take inspiration from them. That is the actual meaning of being senior and exalted. It's not the number of years. So if one is saying that I become senior, so I require some concessions. Unless, of course, one has some genuine health reason, that's another thing. But actually, as we have shown that before also, Prabhupada is writing, the attitude to serve has to increase with age, not reduce. Okay, fine. Next, what's that? Okay, fine. So this is the next item. So who had question?
Association means what you told previously?
Good, you came to a basic thing.
Like this discussion is also one kind of association.
So what is the meaning of association?
I have heard, but
what you heard?
From Radhesham, discussion, knowledge transmission, and heart transformation. These three things happen in any association.
Correct. So basically, association is basically what Rupa Swami has given in the fourth verse. Dadati pratigrinati guhyamakyati prachati bhunkte bhojate chaiva shadvida priti lakshana. This is also, Prabhupada says in one lecture. This is association. And so, the first one and the third one create a conducive environment for the middle one. The first one is Dadati Pradha. The third one is Bhunkte Bhojate. So we do that so that good relationships develop. And in that relationship, good relationships develop, what is supposed to be done? Guhyam Akyati Prachati. That is the main thing. And what is the definition of Guhyam Akyati Prachati Prabhupada gives? That is translation. What is the definition Prabhupada gives in the purport? Correct. That's how Prabhupada defines. Less experienced devotee inquires, more experienced devotee explains. That is the meaning of Guhyam Akyati Prachati. And so therefore, the Guhyam Akyati Prachati or Machitta Madgata Prana, that is basically what is association. So that is what we are supposed to do in the association. So in the association, that is the main thing that has to take place. Inquiry, receiving guidance, instructions to make progress, that is what is association. Not that, okay, being together, taking prasad together, that is also good. But not that we're sitting together and doing nice prajalpa. In association, we're doing prajalpa. That is no good. So the main purpose of the association is to inspire each other in the practices of devotional service. That is the purpose of association. Clear? Oh yes?
Prabhuji, you told asatsanga means reading and hearing from unauthorized sources.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah, so like Prabhupada has wrote many books, but Ramayana, nothing is mentioned. So, but there are Ram Kathas and all things are discussed within our temple. We have Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman deities. So, is there anything source where devotees read or?
So we have our devotees who have written books on Ramayana. Of course, Bhagavatam also, there are 2 chapters, 9th canto of Bhagavatam has 2 chapters on Ramayana. Of course, that's very short. But then we have our devotees who have written, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj has written, then Krishna Dharma Prabhu has written. Yes, Purna Prabhu. So we have our devotees who have written. So if you want, you can read that.
We should not cross that.
What?
We should not cross those books.
No.
Some devotees say Gita Press is authentic, but I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You please tell.
अरे बाबा पूरा रामायण हो गया पूरा रामायण हो गया आई डोंट नो बोलता है No way. Okay, verses. No question. If you want to get contaminated, you read. Okay, we are completing this chapter. Okay, we're going to the next one. Not accepting unfit disciples, constructing many temples, or reading many books. Please read. Question, जल्दी पूछो. ये आपके सामने है.
Association of non-devotees, we see even demigod worshippers are also condemned. Just the second part of the.
Correct.
So now here we see like how demigod worshippers, yeah, they may be. I'm just wondering like.
Same thing, na? We associate with them. That mentality will come. We'll be affected by their consciousness. So demigod worshippers, they're worshipping demigods for what?
Material desires.
Material desires. So that's what. If we associate with them seriously, then that consciousness will affect us. So we respect demigods, but we can't associate with their worshippers and all that. Okay? Okay, fine. Please read the next one. Who's reading? Here, book.
Not accepting unfit disciple, constructing many temples or reading many books. Another stricture is that a person may have many disciples, but he should not act in such a way that he will be obliged to any of them for some particular action or some favor. And one should also not be very enthusiastic about constructing new temples, nor should one be enthusiastic about reading various types of books, save and except that one which lead to advancement of the devotional service. Practically, if one very carefully read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, teaching of Lord Chaitanya, and this nectar of devotion, that will give him sufficient knowledge to understand the science of Krishna consciousness. One need not take the trouble of reading other books.
Read these 2 sentences. Practically, see, please note the words. Practically, if one very carefully reads Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is not one book, we know that. Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, that time Chaitanya Charitamrita was not written, so therefore, now you can say Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this nectar of devotion, that will give him sufficient knowledge to understand the science of Krishna consciousness. One need not take the trouble of reading other books. No need. Of course, if one has the capacity and under guidance, As reference books, if one wants to read, that's fine. But for progress in Krishna consciousness, these books are sufficient. Of course, just reading these books, as Prabhupada says, very carefully, not superficial reading. If one has to read these books very carefully, I don't think so one lifetime is sufficient. Reading all the 12 cantos and all the volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Bhagavad Gita very carefully, it's not so easy. It's not so easy. If one wants to read carefully and understand, it takes a lot of time. But we should be convinced of this, that this is actually sufficient. For any devotee to achieve perfection, this is sufficient. One need not take the trouble of reading. Prabhupada is calling it a trouble, reading other books. There's no need. Of course, if one has special capacity and service, okay, that's another thing. Okay, continue.
In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 13th chapter, verse 8, Narad Muni, while discussing with Maharaj Yudhishthir the various functions of the different orders in society, especially mentions rules for the sannyasis. Those persons who have renounced this material world, one who has accepted the sannyas order of life, is forbidden to accept as a disciple anyone who is not fit. A sannyasi should first of all examine whether a prospective student is sincerely seeking Krishna consciousness. If he is not, he should not be accepted. However, Lord Chaitanya's causeless mercy is such that he advised all bona fide spiritual master to speak about Krishna consciousness everywhere. Therefore, in the line of Lord Chaitanya, even sannyasis can speak about Krishna consciousness everywhere. And if someone is seriously inclined to become a disciple, the sannyasi always accept him. The one point is that without increasing the number of disciples, there is no propagation of cult of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sometimes even at risk, a sannyasi in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may accept even a person who is not thoroughly fit to become a disciple. Later on, by the mercy of such a bona fide spiritual master, the disciple is gradually elevated. However, if one increases the number of disciples simply for the some prestige or false honor, he will surely fall down in the matter of executing Krishna consciousness. Similarly, a bona fide spiritual master has no business reading many books simply to show his proficiency. Or to get popularity by lecturing in the different places. One should avoid all these things. It is also stated that a sannyasi should not be enthusiastic about constructing temples. We can see in the lives of the various acharyas in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that they are not very enthusiastic about constructing temples. However, if somebody comes forward to offer some service, the same reluctant acharyas will encourage the building of costly temples. By such as servitors, for example, Rupa Goswami was offered a favor by Maharaj Manasingh, the commander-in-chief of Emperor Akbar and Rupa Goswami, instructing him to construct a large temple for Govindji, which cost very vast amount of money. So bona fide. So
थक गए पढ़ो ना.
So a bona fide spiritual master should not personally take any responsibility for constructing temples. But if someone has money and wants to spend it in the service of Krishna, an acharya like Rupa Goswami may utilize the devotee's money to construct a nice, costly temple for the service of the Lord. Unfortunately, it happens that someone who is not fit to become a spiritual master may approach wealthy persons to contribute for temple constructions. If such money is utilized by unqualified spiritual masters for living comfortably in the costly temples without actually doing any preaching work, this is not acceptable. In other words, a spiritual master needn't be very enthusiastic for constructing temples, buildings simply in the name of so-called spiritual advancement. Rather, his first and the foremost activity should be to preach. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj recommended that a spiritual master print books. If one has money, instead of constructing costly temples, one should spend his money for the publication of authorized books in different languages for propagating the Krishna consciousness movement.
So basically here, so all these three items, they're not wrong. So all of them are bona fide, accepting disciples, constructing temples, reading books, all of them are definitely bona fide. But what is being condemned here is the wrong motivation. So if one simply accepts disciples to increase one's following, or if one is reading books just to increase one's popularity, or if one is constructing temples just to live a comfortable life, that is what is being condemned. If it is being done for the right purposes, especially preaching purposes, then that is fine. But the warning is there, as Prabhupada is writing here, if one increases the number of disciples simply for some prestige or false honor, he will surely fall down in the matter of executing Krishna consciousness. Okay? So sometimes these days spiritual masters may not be directly knowing the disciples whom they are initiating also. Many times it is the preacher devotees who are recommending the devotees for initiation. And so this principle applies to them also. So if they simply recommend devotees for initiation just to increase their own popularity or their own following, then they will have to face this reaction. So therefore one should be extremely careful. So nothing should be done for wrong motivation. Everything should be done with the right motivation. That is the point here. And so similarly, as far as reading books also, we saw that statement. Srila Prabhupada said these books are sufficient. But if one has a specific service, then one may read some other books as, again, bona fide books within our sampradaya, as reference books, one can read something, but not at the expense of Prabhupada books. Prabhupada books always have to be the foundational books one reads. And similarly, regarding temples, there are quotes where Srila Prabhupada said that our temples are not simply free hotels for people to eat and sleep. So Srila Prabhupada made the point clear that temples are not meant for lazy people, but they are meant for actively serving. That should be the purpose. So that is the mood in which these three angas of bhakti are mentioned. And I think so we all know this famous pastime. Yes, where Srila Prabhupada's Bhakti Thakur told, there's fire in the mats, because even the sannyasis, they were fighting over which room?
Ganga facing room.
Yes. So that's how, whoever one may be, one can be affected by material motives. So at any stage of life, it doesn't matter, even if one is a sannyasi, one can be affected by material motivations if one is not careful. These weeds of puja, labh, pratishtha can grow at any time. So therefore, one needs to be careful and always alert in one's practice of devotional service. Go ahead. And so there he received that famous instruction, standing by Radhakund, beholding spiritual master. So before that, so Srila Bhakti Thakur said directly to Abhay, I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books. Standing by Radhakund and beholding spiritual master, befell the words deeply into his own life. If you ever get money, print books. And Srila Prabhupada took that very seriously. Go ahead. I think so that's the end. Okay, so, this is regarding offenses. Fine. That's the next chapter. So, so that's the end of this chapter. There are a few angas of bhakti remaining. You can read on your own. The next chapter, chapter 8, is offenses to be avoided. This is basically a list of offenses to the deity. That means seva aparadhs. Nama aparadhs we all know, right? Every day we are reciting, at least we are reciting the 10 offenses. Of course, we need to meditate on them and avoid them. And that's a whole different subject matter, which is mentioned in Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given all details in the Harinam Chintamani. But here he's not getting into the details of Nama aparadh. Here is giving a list of seva aparadhs. In fact, the list of seva aparadhs is not given directly by Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami actually mentions only 2 verses about offenses. He only mentions about Nama aparadh and seva aparadh, only 2 verses. The list of offenses is actually given by the Acharya. Jiva Goswami, in his commentary to the verses, has given the list of offenses. Okay, and that's what Srila Prabhupada has given us. So, but in any case, you can read this list. There's nothing much to explain. So you can read this list of offenses. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in our next class. Okay? Fine?
Hare Krishna, Guruji, I have one question.
Okay, what's that?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to ask that Prabhupada said that even if one is finding no pure devotee, so one should accept spiritual master instruction and remain stick with the institution.
Yes.
So Prabhuji means sometimes when devotees want to go to spiritual master, then his authority also tells that be careful whatever spiritual master says. It may be some heavy instruction also. Then you have to follow.
Right.
So what we should think, Prabhuji, means what condition we should go or not go, because it is also said that we should ask from spiritual master at least before he departs that how we can please you like this. So when we can go, when we cannot go, how to detect that?
Okay, so if there's a doubt, then consult some senior devotee before going. You consult some senior devotee, and then if there's a need to go, then you go.
Because they allow us and they at last leave it to us only that whatever he will
Yes,
tell, then you have to follow.
finally nobody interferes in one's free will. Even Krishna doesn't interfere in the free will. So then ultimately it's up to you. So if you really feel the need to go, then you go. No problem. But whatever instruction one receives, one has to follow. All right?
Prabhuji means, yes, one last. That one lecture of Gaur Govind Maharaj I was hearing.
What's
So
that?
Maharaj was telling that Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj. So Maharaj was telling that every disciple has a right that he should ask from his spiritual master before his departure that Maharaj, how I can please you? His guru he must ask. So means everyone should ask this or
No,
what we can understand.
in the lectures, the guru is always telling what will please him.
No, because he was telling that something is general instruction and something is specific.
No, that general instruction which is given in the lectures can also be taken personally. In fact, His Holiness Halda Swami Maharaj says that they would never go to Gaur Govind Maharaj to ask anything. Correct? Maharaj says, right? Yes, he would never go to ask anything. Yes. So they would just ask senior devotees or something. They would never go. But in any case, if there's something serious one wants to ask, consult senior devotees and one can go. All right?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So please read this 8th chapter, this list of offenses. If you have any doubts, you ask. When is our next class? Please announce.
Hare Krishna. So as we have holiday tomorrow, so on Monday we would be having a class at 10 o'clock because we have Ekadashi that day. So our class will start at 10 and we'll go till 12:30.
All right?
So please
Okay,
note.
so Monday 10 to 12:30.
Monday 10 to 12:30.
Okay, fine. So we'll continue on that day. If you have any questions, you can ask on that day. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai, Sambit Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama